The spooky season is upon all of us, chat, and with it comes Halloween videos. Kind of a given, honestly. So I thought of a couple ideas and I eventually landed on this one, being a battle between the Man in the Suit and Springtrap, characters from the FNAF series and, well, Man in the Suit. And firstly, to address the elephant in the room. Yes, this topic was done by one of my buddies, Goji-Guy, and he covered this matchup. Me and him obviously have different ways in determining who would win in a versus matchup, so despite us sharing the same topic, this video will be very different. So those of you guys who have seen his take, don't worry, this will be a new take on the same subject. And two, it's honestly a pretty good matchup. Both of these guys are supernatural entities tied to a piece of practical effects meant to bring joy and entertainment. And three, there's a decent chunk of more developments in both of these series. Not really FNAF per se, but Man in the Suit has gotten a couple of new episodes, and we even have some new metas thanks to an hour-plus long interview done by a Godzilla guy. So thank you once again. And going back to FNAF, I've definitely gotten better at scaling the verse due to some friends of mine, especially since the last time I've scaled this guy specifically, which was also around this time last year. So with that being said, today we have the Man in the Suit versus the man behind the slaughter. We will use feats, calculations, and the lore of each series to determine who would win the fight between these two mascot horror icons. But first, if you like the power scaling content, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. We post multiple shorts a week and weekly videos. We like to cover a lot of franchises and verses, so if you're interested in pretty much any piece of fiction, odds are I'll get around to it. Stack that on top of the numerous things you get a week, and I think it's a pretty good deal considering it's free. But with that being said, let's get right into this matchup. The first thing we have to talk about when scaling Five Nights at Freddy's is the canonicity of certain materials. Because yeah, it was pretty easy like 10 years ago when we just had a couple of games, but nowadays we have the core games, their spin-offs, their sequels to said spin-offs, an entire trilogy of novels with dozens of spin-offs of their own, and now even a motion picture. So when trying to scale any of these guys, it can be a little difficult if you don't know what you're doing. But to put it simply, the novels are just as canon as the games, despite not sharing the same continuity. This is because Scott has stated that despite them being different timelines, they are still parallel stories to one another. Usually Scott will use the novels as a kind of testing ground for concepts that would eventually leak into the main games. You got things like William Afton being the purple guy, and the abilities and extent of the source known as Remnant, which were both things that originate from the novels that slowly made their way into the canon series. So with that in mind, it's fair enough to talk about the feats and scaling chain from that books when talking about a game Springtrap. So just remember that when I drop novel scans and feats. Not to say the games have nothing, they do actually, but when you got 6 games that are mostly just like PNG backgrounds and stock horror ambient music, it's kind of hard to get some feats. But with that being said, let's just dive into it. Obviously Springtrap is the guy who will be put up against the Man in the Suit, but from an inverse perspective and standpoint, he upscales a lot of characters due to the scaling chain in verse, which we'll get around to. But starting at the lowest possible end, Springtrap states that he is far more powerful than he's ever been. This is especially telling as William Afton, even as a human being, has superhuman feats, as during the events of the first novel it's stated verbatim he has inhuman-like strength. In the game, he's pretty consistently shown to overpower and dismantle the animatronics, and for those of you guys with the headcanon that he hacked into them due to whatever random bit he has on his model here, Henry confirms in FNAF 6 that William actually overpowered the animatronics during the FNAF 3 mini games, both in the game itself,
but he led them there again. He overpowered them again. And he robbed them of the only thing that they had, again.
And in guidebooks. And he presumably did the same thing here during FNAF 2. This is notable as this would mean William Afton would upscale the feats of durability and strength of the OG animatronic gang, who themselves should be stronger than the Twisted Ones, as they literally broke the Twisted Ones apart easily. Going to their feats now, one of these guys was able to break through a wall effortlessly and cause a violent fragmentation, and he suffered no injuries. And due to the speed at which this feat was accomplished, this would be a feat ranging anywhere from wall to even small building level. Once again, their durability scales to this, and you got Freddy Fazbear just breaking them apart. So that would be a pretty decent bar for their attack potency. This is consistent as they should already upscale feats from the model seen at Fredbear's Diner, and the animatronics themselves are confirmed to be able to siphon the energy of the OG location's electricity to amp their physical movements. So we know it's a power amp as well, with it being stated that by the time they got to Phone Guy, they were capable of redirecting and holding 1.21 gigawatts of electricity. To put this level of power into perspective, just to put it it in a way that you guys understand. This was a level of power that was required for the DeLorean from the Back to the Future franchise just to time travel, with the climax of that film very infamously being them trying to catch a lightning bolt and harness its power. So if this is a level of power that you need to siphon off of lightning to get, then yeah, it's a lot of power. And when calculated by itself, that amount of gigawatts would actually fall into the building level ranges. And as previously mentioned, the animatronics use this power to physically amp themselves, and their animatronic shells are so durable that they can endure this level of energy. And Afton both overpowered them and destroyed their physical shells. And William Afton is described to be stronger than he's ever been as Springtrap, granting the man behind the slaughter at worst small building to building level attack potency. And no, I'm not saying that Afton is a building buster, as attack potency is not a direct measure of a destructive capacity. It merely means Springtrap's blows will be able to output relative energy to the power required to destroy these constructs, whether that be in the form of a kit. Think of it like a 50 caliber sniper and a 40mm grenade launcher. Both forces produce relative energy in the 10 to 15k ranges of joules, but have widely different capacities for destruction, as one is meant to blow things up and the other is meant for precision. So just because William Afton can canonically punch at that power doesn't mean that in any way, shape, or form he's gonna blow up a building with said punch, but it doesn't mean that he wouldn't have relative energy to things that could, such as rocket launchers or even some grenades, as fists and explosive utilize energy in two very different and distinct ways. Now with that being said and covered, we can go over his power as Springtrap. Springtrap is a really high tier inverse because of his showings against the Funtime animatronics, as in the novels, while in a weakened state, he was capable of breaking Funtime Freddy. This is important as the Funtime line in general is stated to be state of the art and more advanced than anything before, which would include the endoskeletons both first and second line, which are what compose the OGs and Toady lines respectively. This is self-evident, as well as the Funtimes by far have the most visually reinforced endoskeleton, and Springtrap, while in a weakened state, can rip these things apart, truly solidifying him in the building level ranges. As for his speed now, due to his rank inverse once again, he should upscale the OG gang, whose movements between rooms are not gameplay mechanics, nor are they teleporting, as it's been confirmed throughout multiple guidebooks and novels that these guys' movement speed in the games is just a visual representation of how fast they can move, with it being stated that they move at speeds that humans can barely perceive, with even the most recent week before novel starring the phone guy confirming that yeah, these guys are just that fast, with the phone guy even implying that Foxy is capable of running at similar paces as modern day vehicles. Springtrap also himself is stated verbatim to leap at superhuman speeds, and he has a feat where he's able to blitz a human being so bad the victim didn't even know what was going on until he was already grabbed and thrown by Springtrap, with the same excerpt stating that he had a second, if that, to even perceive Springtrap before the fact, with the passage comparing his speed to a race car. So in conclusion, Springtrap would find himself in the small building to building level ranges of attack potency, and he would possess anywhere from superhuman to subsonic speed. Not bad for a grounded video game series starring the equivalent to Chuck E. Cheese mascots, though I suppose it's to be expected for a series as long and generally as expensive as Five Nights at Freddy's. The Man in the Suit series is relatively new in comparison, but at the same time, we have roughly a dozen episodes of it at the same time, so it's not like he's lacking in content. So yeah, let's just get into it. For starters, he's pretty tall. Not as tall as any of his cinematic iterations, yeah, but due to shown scans from the series itself, it's been determined that he's around 10 to 12 feet tall. This might seem like a useless statistic, but there is a calc that exists that assumes that he's only 6.5 feet tall, and with his weight, it's been asserted that his GPE would fall in the Street Plus level ranges of attack potency, so I guess just multiplying that value by 2 and he'd just have once again Street Plus level AP. But still, this is important as due to us knowing he can keep up with cars verbatim out of Unknowingly's mouth himself, with his speed ranging anywhere from 50 to 70 miles per hour. So yeah, I think while traveling at that speed, he'd definitely be outputting wall levels of energy. This level of power should more than likely scale to his combat and reaction reaction times, as he would need to be observing and reacting to obstacles in real time to travel at that speed efficiently. And in terms of scaling it to his combat speed, while yes, most organisms' physical swipes are slower than their max travel speed, they're not like that much slower, with them only being 40 to 50% slower, meaning that his physical blows should be in the 25 to 35 mile per hour ranges. Combine this with his height and weight, and that's some casual wall level stuff. This is supported in the narrative as he's consistently able to defeat other human beings and even people while they're in kaiju suits and fatally injure them as well. As for his durability now, it's pretty good internally, as it's stated that the force of the actor's explosion while in the suit was comparable to a grenade, which typically range in the street to wall level ends of energy, and the suit wasn't really affected, so that's some nice consistency. But as for his outer durability, that seems to be much worse, as he was critically injured by a shotgun, which only outputs street levels of attack potency. Now this is where his regen comes in, as after a relatively short time, the man in the suit was able to just come back from it. Though this doesn't make up for the fact that yes, his head was able to get fatally injured by this. So either the man in the suit is street level and the wall level ends are just wank, or he's a glass cannon, as he can't really endure the amounts of energy that I've asserted that he should be able to casually output. But going back to his regen now, unknowingly has stated that his creation's regenerative properties are on par with Godzilla -1's, but no, this just is objectively wrong, as -1 Godzilla, as even a dinosaur, was able to heal and regen faster than the explosion of a nuclear bomb, something that would be outputting energy thousands of times stronger than his normal base as a small building to building level dinosaur, while man in the suit is taking around a minute to heal from something dozens of times weaker than his own internal durability. For a time frame now, we know the person shot him, watched the man in the suit fall over, picked up his camera, and was able to get multiple camera flicks off before he even started to regenerate. So unfortunately, while he does have a good healing factor, it's just objectively not as good as Godzilla -1's. So unknowingly statement here would only be author intent, which unfortunately doesn't mean anything, as it's just not consistent with his narrative. Death of the author has no favorites, man. But with that, we've covered his attack potency, speed, and durability, and even his healing factor. But we have one more thing to go over, as the man in the suit can breathe acid so potent that it stages to be able to melt metal, which is another wall level feat.
What about metal suits? Because I know like a lot of the Tokusatsu ones are like, you know, more rubber, but like what if there was like a suit like fully out of metal? Would it have the same effect, and could he pierce through it?
He could probably pierce through it, yeah.
But with this same breath though, he was able to perform his best feat in the entire series, that being creating a hole possibly 5 to 4 feet wide and 3 inches deep, which when calculated would be another wall level feat. So with the stats of both our combatants set, who would win this fight? And why is it Springtrap? Because yeah, the winner's pretty clear cut after pointing out the difference in stats. The man in the suit got his head blown off by a shotgun, and Afton scales above animatronics that are able to endure 1.21 gigawatts, which is unironically a difference of over 480,000 times. And keep in mind, William Afton doesn't need to reload or anything, he's just that stronger with his physical blows, so you can just keep punching him with force 484,000 times stronger than what blew his head off. And he's also much faster, as well as FNAF characters are consistently in the subsonic ranges, as we have multiple instances throughout canon where they're able to blitz human perception. These guys are so fast that the entire fandom thought they were teleporting for a large chunk of the game's existence. Being extremely generous to the man in the suit and assuming his max speed of modern car is equal to his combat and reaction time, he'd still be over 2 times slower than Springtrap, who verbatim has speed on par with a race car. So the man in the suit would be getting hit with blows strong enough to critically damage him almost 500,000 times over, and he'd be getting struck by blows that are 2 times faster than his Wang Taiyan. There's also the fact that the man in the suit has 0 wing cons to permanently keep Afton down, as Springtrap's true form is a spirit, and if by some miracle the man in the suit was able to physically damage or destroy Afton's physical shell, he has no answer to Afton's, well, true being, as he could just infect another animatronic, create a horrifying and stronger amalgamation, or even infect something on the internet. Afton's got a lot of options after the fact, with even novels stating that Afton's will is indomitable, with hospital members saying that his very survival and endurance goes against the laws of the universe itself. life. And as long as Afton has his remnant, he will never ever really truly be gone. Keep in mind, while still human, he survived being spring locked and then subsequently sat in a room for 30 years with no food or water. So you can only imagine how much harder it will be to dispose of Springtrap, who quote is more than Afton ever was. And that's even assuming he could hurt Springtrap or get him to that point, which objectively he more than likely can't. But assuming he could, Man in the Suit has no way to defeat something like that, whereas Afton undoubtedly has a way to defeat the Man in the Suit via being faster, stronger, and he actually has the means to keep the beast down, because due to his experience with Remnant, he can interact with souls in the spiritual plane. So to put it simply, he could literally take people's souls, stop them from going to the afterlife, and even trap them in certain objects. So unironically, Afton could beat the Man in the Suit to oblivion and then trap his very existence in something like a bonbon animatronic. So unironically, Afton is hundreds of thousands of times stronger and durable. He's at least 2 times faster, and he possesses a way to permanently keep the beast that resides in the suit down. And because of this, in conclusion, I would say that William Afton will beat the Man in the Suit with anywhere from low to medium difficulty. And just like that, we're done with the video. But before we truly head out, I'd like to thank Unknowingly, as he's the one who made this series to begin with. If you're interested in this guy's content, I'll link his channel down below. I also want to thank multiple people for helping me with the Man in the Suit scaling, being Dread Dormammu and Witterly Godzilla. As I just mentioned to them, I had to scale the character and they just slid the calcs, like without even me asking for the most part, so really thank you for that. I'm gonna bring back the comment of the day because it's Halloween, or probably the day after the fact when this video drops, so let me know, who did you guys dress up for if you participated in Halloween? And while you're down there, be sure to let me know if you liked the video, as it tells me what you guys want to see, and if the interest for a topic is strong enough, I'll make a video on it. But as always, I'll see you guys next week, but until then, stay bitchy, fans.